channel. So the Acquired Deafblindness Network does have its own YouTube channel. And for any new members, if you missed some of the previous webinars that we have done in the network, do head over to that YouTube channel and you can watch some of those earlier webinars that we had. Okay. So I think we'll make a start now. Again, Andy, if I could just ask you kindly, if somebody comes in, if you could admit them, if they're in the waiting room, that would be great. But let's make a start. So a very warm welcome to everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or in the case of Hannah, our speaker, it's very late in the evening. So good evening to you, Hannah.
Good evening.
For those that perhaps don't know, I know most people, but for those that don't know me, my name's Pete Simcock, and I am the chair of the ADBN, of the Acquired Deafblindness Network, and I'm delighted to welcome you to now the second webinar in our fourth series of webinars. And the theme of this year's webinars is Acquired Deafblindness, Balancing Loss and Potential. Our first webinar in January, very interesting presentation by Femke Kleiger, who is the co-chair of the Acquired Deafblindness Network. But today, I am delighted to invite our speaker and extremely grateful that Hannah has agreed to do it at our normal time, because as I said, it's gone 11 o'clock at night for Hannah in Perth. So thank you, Hannah, for joining us. Our speaker, Hannah McPierzie, is a disability advocate. She has 2 auditory brainstem implants and sees the barriers that people face when they are trying to navigate the health system, particularly as it relates to communication. Hannah has Neurofibromatosis Type 2, sometimes shortened to NF2, and shares her perspective on living with a degenerative rare disease. She is a deafblind educator at SensesWA Australia, runs her own disability consulting business, and also regularly works with health sciences and the School of Medicine at the University of Melbourne, Australia. Hannah has recently started providing her services to Macquarie University, and thank you for reminding me how I actually pronounce that, Macquarie University in Sydney and the University of Sydney. Her work also extends to Birmingham City University, where I am based, assisting with our deafblind studies course. So I'm grateful to Hannah for doing that. Excellent work, and I know because I've seen it. Hannah is on the community advisory panel for the Children's Tumour Foundation and is an ABI mentor in the Med-El HearPeers programme. Hannah is chairperson of Deafblind West Australians, a non-executive director with Deafness Forum Australia, and last but certainly not least, is a member of the Acquired Deafblindness Network as well. So Hannah will present for around 30 minutes, and we will then have a time for questions. So if you do have a question, if you can please put that in the chat, or alternatively, if you prefer, you can raise your hand on the Zoom system, and when invited, you can unmute yourself and ask a question. But before you do speak, if you are speaking, if you can just say who you are and where you are from, that is really helpful. It can also be helpful whilst Hannah is presenting if we ensure that we are muted and possibly turn off cameras, simply to manage the bandwidth. So Hannah, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you for our presentation, which we're all really looking forward to listening to.
Thanks, Peter. That's really lovely. A lovely introduction. Made me sound very fancy. Yeah, my name's Hannah and I'm going to be presenting. So I'm just going to share my screen. I've already got it at the end. So if I take it back to the start. So this is my presentation. I've called it Walking in Two Worlds. And like Peter said, it's part of the ADBN's webinar series of Acquired Deafblindness, Balancing Loss and Potential. So a bit about me. I live in Perth, Western Australia, my husband, who's fast asleep in bed because it's 11:30. I grew up here with my parents, my brother and my sister, and there's a photo on the screen showing my brother, me in the middle, and my sister next to me, smiling like big dorks a little while ago. I was a teacher for students with disabilities for over 15 years. And now, like Pete said, I've got a few different roles, but Chair of Deafblind West Australians, sometimes called DBWA, is a big part of that. Some normal things that I like to do are camping and board games, watching movies, cooking, learning Auslan, which is Australian Sign Language. And I love to read. A member of too many libraries, according to my husband, and I read every day. It's a bit of a curveball for me. The first 29 years of my life were pretty privileged and stock standard, no health issues. And then on my 29th birthday, I had an MRI result come back that diagnosed me with NF2. And on the screen, there's a big black image with it's my brain, and you can see these little white clouds, which are two big brain tumors on the auditory nerve. And then on the right, there's a photo of me receiving chemotherapy treatment on my birthday the following year. So life took a bit of a turn at that point. I suddenly learned more about what NF2 is, and essentially it's a rare disease that means you grow tumors anywhere on the nervous system. So brain, spine, anywhere, and they're benign, but they continue to grow, and they grow in places that don't have much room. So the sort of hallmark of NF2 are these two white clouds, which are on the hearing nerve, and they grow and grow and grow until you go deaf. And so when I got diagnosed, I learned pretty quick that it's going to become deaf. It was just a matter of when. I've got a slide up here with lots of photos on it, and they're all photos of me in hospital in various positions. In 2020, I had the first brain surgery on the right side, and so they go in, they take out the tumor, and it's a long surgery. It's about 20 hours. I had that done in Perth. And it's a combination of ear, nose, and throat surgeons and neurosurgeons. So it's a big team in there, and they did the right side in February 2020, and the left side grew very, very quickly, and so I had to have the left side out in March 2021. So it was essentially 1 year. Going from normal hearing to profound deafness. So in these images, it's me recovering from major surgery, but also grappling with a loss of a sense and trying to figure out how do you do the normal things that I could do last week now because I can't hear. Communicating was really hard. On the screen, I've got an excerpt. I've got a screenshot from my voice to text, and I had to use that because I woke up completely deaf. And it was during COVID, so we didn't have many people allowed into hospitals, and so I was having some post-operative complications, and they needed to do more surgery. But how do you communicate now? So I had my speech to text going on my phone, and they're trying to go through neurosurgery consent with me, and it was quite scary because you're hoping that you get Wi-Fi access so you can read what they're saying. the nurses would use whiteboards. So there's a photo here of a whiteboard with some questions on there about pain or different types of information on the dressings that I have on my stomach. And then when I woke up from the surgery, the second surgery, I had a big sticker on my head and it says, "I am deaf, I sign Auslan." And I think it's quite a funny thing to put because no one else in hospital knows sign language unless you have an Auslan interpreter. So it's just a funny little fact that they put on there. But also it's now a label that I didn't give myself that someone has, and sort of that renegotiating begins. Obviously, being deafblind, eye health comes into it. With NF2, I have a brain tumor on my ocular motor nerve. It just slowly paralyzes my left eye, and it's inoperable, so it just causes double vision, and will continue to do so. But after the second surgery in 2021, it caused facial weakness, which meant I wasn't able to close my left eye, and I still struggled with that. So then a whole bunch of things come in. When you've lost the ability to hear, the ability to see becomes very important. And when your eyesight starts to deteriorate, you really need to get onto that. The surgeons and the medical staff were all concentrating on ear and CSF leaks and spinal fluid, and they're going, "I can't see out of my left eye." It's quite a scary time. So I have 2 auditory brainstem implants. They're called ABIs, and they look very similar to a cochlear implant externally, but internally, they bypass that whole section where the cochlear is, and they go straight onto the brainstem. So I've got one on my right side and one on my left. And the one on the right never worked, never got a sound from it. So going into the second surgery on the left, we all were really hoping that this one would work, because otherwise that's it. There's no sound ever again. I was very lucky that the second one worked. And I put this on to show a little bit of the weirdness of trying to understand sound again after you've lost it. So when you go from acoustic hearing to electrical, and I've got 12 electrodes of my brainstem, and try to get them from high to low or low to high, to try and understand. If you can do that, then what you're hearing will sound as natural as is possible with 12 electrodes. So I used to sit in my mapping my audiology appointments and try and draw if it sounded low or high, and then I'd show my audiologist and she'd jiggle it around. Understanding speech. So on the screen here, there's a big movie poster on the right and it says "Free Solo." And I'm not sure how many people have seen it, but it's a documentary, an American documentary made about this guy Alex, who rock climbs this big cliff in Yosemite National Park, and he does it without ropes. And the cliff is about almost a kilometre tall. It's ridiculous. So if he falls, he dies. Spoiler alert, he was at the premiere, so he's okay. But when you watch it, you get a bit nervous. I'd seen this movie before, but the night before my surgery, I needed to watch something that was kind of profound and something that really felt like someone was touching the void. And so I watched this, and it did help. But then it also made me think about what it's like for me now to understand speech, because I think it's hard for a lot of people to understand that it's not a binary thing. It's not you can't hear or you can hear. There's a lot of nuance and subtlety So I think it's a bit like rock climbing in that some people, when I talk to them, they have a very easy voice to understand. They might have a good pitch, or they speak at a good pace. They might clearly enunciate. And so they're really easy to climb up. Other people are a bit tricky. They might have an accent that I'm not familiar with. They might speak very softly. They might talk very quickly. And when I have someone like that, it's a bit like a smooth surface, and I can't get any grip. And that often when that happens, I do my fake laugh and I just nod my head a lot. And it's really scary because you think, oh, I don't want to come across like an idiot. Although the ABIs are fantastic, one thing that I do miss the most is music. I still can't, will never be able to hear music again. It doesn't sound musical. So I used to love Bruce Springsteen. And this is a lyric of his. There's a photo of him on the right, but it's a lyric of his from one of his songs, which says, "You've gone a million miles. How far did you get? That place where you can't remember and you can't forget." And for me, that's what music is like. It lives in my head, but if I try and concentrate on it sort of disappears. So I try and just hold it in there and just appreciate that I was able to hear it. After the surgeries and after all the operations and recovery, I went to the pub with my husband and I went to go to the bathroom, and I just got confronted by this sight, and it's two doors. The one on the left is white and it says ladies, and the one on the right is black and it says disabled. And I just thought, oh, which door do you take? And it's a kind of a funny thing. The ladies is white, it's light. The disabled is dark, and there's that sort of unconscious bias maybe as to how the world looks at people with disabilities. Mental health takes a big toll, and that's something that I've had to deal with. Accessing mental health support is really hard. If you have acquired deafness, if you've acquired blindness, if you've acquired deafblindness, the strategies you used to use are no longer practical. So things that I used to do, like listen to mindfulness or music, join a yoga class or a meditation class, I couldn't do any of those. They were all out of my realm of possibility. So suddenly my whole toolbox was gone. And I lost my first language. I still don't really have one. Obviously, English is my native language, but it's not easy for me anymore. I can speak it, but to understand it is very different. And I work really hard at learning sign language, but that takes a long time to become fluent in that. There's that deep isolation. When you lose part of yourself, you do try and grow another part of yourself, but that takes time. And there's that chronic grief that comes with having a neurological condition. So NF2, it's forever changing, and you go through stable periods, and then you go through periods where you need more surgery or treatment. On the screen here, I've got a few photos of the different tools that I use to get out and about. On the very top left there, I've got a few little round badges of little badges I ordered on Etsy to help me when I go out and about. And so some of them say I'm deaf, some say I lip read. I've got one that says, wait, what? And I find that one kind of funny. And I like to wear those if I'm going to an event or if I'm going somewhere I know there's going to be a lot of people. So I can put it there as a bit of a clue for people. Underneath those, I've got my Bellman and Symphon alarm system, and that's great. That really helps me wake up. It goes under my pillow, and I set my alarm, and I know that I will be okay, and it will go off, and I'll be able to get up and go to work. Next to that, I've got some microphones that I use, and they're lifesavers. They let me go. I use them in appointments for one-on-one. I use them in meetings when there's a group. I use them in a whole bunch of different types of settings. And then next to them in a big photo, there's a photo of my legs and my hand, and I'm holding my white cane. And I use this to help me get a bit more space when I'm walking around in public. And it helps me get a seat when I'm on the train as well, which is good because I can't balance. If something's moving, I'll fall. So it's safe. And then next to that, in the very center, there's a little screenshot of my phone, and I use smart lights. And so I can control them on my phone to turn lights on and off. My husband can do the same, so he can flash the light if I locked him out of the house, which happens quite a lot, or flash the light if he's trying to get my attention. And then on here, I've got some photos of what I do now that I've acquired deafblindness and I can't teach anymore. And so a lot of these photos show what Peter was telling at the start. So I'm the chair of Deafblind West Australians, and I'm very proud of that. We've got a great organisation here in Perth. I've become friends with a lot of people with disabilities, women mainly, but some men too. And some of these people have acquired disabilities, and some have congenital. I don't have anyone who has deafblindness in this group, but I do connect with them at Deafblind West Australians. I do have my own little business on my website there that I'm getting out and about and doing more and more to try and reach more people about acquired deafblindness or deafblindness in general. And then at the top there's a nice photo of Peter and I when we were at the Deafblind International Conference in Canada a couple of years ago now. And it's a lovely photo of us I wanted to put in there. So I'm almost finished here, but this is me getting out again, again with my white cane, getting out to seeing different parts of the world. There's a photo at the top right there of a really colourful background, and then there's me with a few men, and they're the people. This is me in Austria in Europe, and I went to Med-El, who made my implant. I went to their headquarters, and they introduced me to 3 of the engineers who made the implant in my brain. And it was a very emotional meeting because for them, they work in these laboratories every day, and they make these incredible tools. And then I walk in and I've got it in my brain, and it's the only reason I'm able to hear. So it was a lovely moment. I also am getting used to being deaf and the privilege that comes from being able to just take off my processor and be in silence. So there's a photo at the bottom there. I'm holding my processor in my hand. I'm at a game of footy and my team's losing, which happens a lot. And instead of having to hear them lose, I can just take my ear off and pretend that they're not losing. And these are some of the different organisations I've been working with or doing presentations to. They're mainly Australian based, but there's a few, especially Birmingham City University, that are international. And I really like that, being able to reach out to different parts of the world. And the last little bit I wanted to talk about was that Deafblind West Australians. So we are the only peer support organisation for people with deafblindness in our state in Western Australia. And we run a fortnightly drop-in centre, and it's all about promoting community and really trying to encourage young leaders within that community and running, accessible information. So we had one last week about the upcoming federal election, making sure people were aware of their rights and the process. And it's all very neutral, but informative. And this last photo I wanted to show, I took it a few years ago at an art gallery, and it shows me looking at this big red light. And for me, I just wanted to say that, the anxiety and the fear that comes from acquiring a disability, for me, deafblindness, doesn't go away. You do deal with it and you do learn to live with it. But there are times where it is overwhelming. And so this photo to me, I kind of like it because it feels like I'm standing there looking at that anxiety, and I'm owning it and acknowledging it, but I'm in charge, and it's not in me, it's outside me. So thank you for listening. I'm going to stop sharing and hand this back to Pete to take over from there.
Brilliant. Hannah, thank you so much for a really super presentation. Very interesting, very moving, particularly hearing from people with lived experience when you're talking not in an abstract way, but you're talking about the reality of your life. And thank you for sharing in such detail. I'm happy now to open it to questions. I certainly have been scribbling some things down, Hannah, so have a few questions. But let me hand it over to the audience first. Any questions that people would like to ask? If people look in the chat too, I've also put a link to Hannah's website, so do have a look at that website as well. Any questions anybody wants to ask Hannah? Monica from England. Hi, Monica. You have a question for us.
Yeah, following on from Femke's interesting presentation, she talked about this sort of like circle of energy and stress. So when you get very, very stressed, you use up a lot of energy. And so you have to manage the stress in order to make certain you have a lot of energy for everything you need to do. And I mean, she talked a lot, of course, about loss as well. But I was really struck by that. So I'd just like to ask you how you see that the balance between the needing your energy and then it gets used up on stress.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is really hard to manage that. And I think something that adds to it is the listening fatigue, especially when you have electrical stimulation in your brain. You're using that quite a lot. And so what I do a lot now is I take my ear, call it my ear, I take my ear off a lot. And I like to sit in silence because it is my new default. It's my new normal. It was terrifying at the start. It was completely isolating, and I was terrified of it. Whereas now it's something that I engage with a lot. I don't know. I'm starting to feel like it's normal, and that's a really warm feeling. I don't wake up in anxious states, and so because it no longer fills me with dread and fear, I do take it off to have those breaks to conserve energy and to conserve strength.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And that's really interesting. In the silence at first was terrifying because that was the old normal, and now it's the new normal, and it's about embracing. And that's part of what we got from Femke, just sort of taught me a lot as a hearing sighted person. I thought, yeah, the positive, actually. There's other ways to do things.
Can I share?
Thanks, Monica. Yes, somebody wants to share. I can't.
Yeah. Can I share?
Oh, hi. Yes, please ask a question.
It's listening to Hannah is really amazing. Yeah. And I want to share one of my experience with one of the students here. with neurofibromatosis, type 5. So I just want to know, I don't know the medical reason, because it is coming as acquired deafblindness. So is it is not gene related, genetic? It's not genetic. So it is a disease. It's a disease. And what I understood, I'm a non-medical person, that the brain develops small to big tumors, which affects the vision pathway or hearing pathway, isn't it? Is that? Yeah.
Yes.
And
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And actually, I really thank you for your sharing of experience, how you manage your stress while you are taking off the ear plug. Yeah, and the silence give you the patience, and you restore your energy. As a I'm also sharing with my previous speaker also, that as a hearing and sighted person, sometimes too much of sound gets me irritated, or sometimes I forget or cannot concentrate. So, but I don't have any apparatus so that I can shut off the sound. So actually, really, that is the way you conserve your energy. It's really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Really brilliant.
Thank you so much.
I can share your experience with my students who are deafblind and with suffering from progressive vision and hearing loss. So I can also share your experience with them, transfer that knowledge, that you can also have that peace to concentrate and again start working. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Any comments you'd like to add, Hannah, before I go to the next question?
No, I think it's a lovely thing to share, that the fear does go. It stops being a shock, and you're able to then sit with it, and then you do start to see some of the benefits. It's a bit of a superpower, because not many people can do it. So you can take it off and be in your own world. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Hannah, we have a question from Srika Milan, who is coming to us from Toronto. Srika Milan says he would appreciate knowing what devices you find more useful for social media or email or other means to communicate with others when you're not in person with people.
I use email a lot, or WhatsApp. But something I've started doing recently on my phone is I have an iPhone, and I got shown by another deaf person how you can change in your accessibility setting to have live captions. And so now what I can do is FaceTime family and have captions while I'm FaceTiming them. So instead of having to do a Zoom or a formal thing where you send the invite, I can do that sort of really easy catch up with my brother who lives in Melbourne and see my niece. So I think anything that's video related or text, so that I don't have to, anything that you have to keep trying to interpret, it's too much energy. So something that's really simple.
Thanks, Hannah. There's a message as well in the chat from Shruti in India. Hi, Hannah. I could relate to your experience because I also had cochlear implant surgery last year. I loved listening to you. Thank you for that, Shruti. And Srika Milan has said, thank you so much, Hannah, for responding to his question. Does anybody else have any?
Yes,
Hi,
maybe
Helen.
I think
Yes.
mine is,
Hi, Helen.
yes, Peter. Yeah, I think mine is just a comment. Sorry, my name is Helen, and I'm a mother of a child with congenital deafness, and I think I'm learning a lot from this group. So, Hannah, I just want to tell you that you're such an amazing person. I follow you on LinkedIn, and I see your works on LinkedIn, and you you're so good. I love your presentation, and I've learned a lot from you. Yeah, wonderful
Thanks, Helen.
presentation.
I thought I recognized your name.
Thanks, Helen. Yes, you're both very good on LinkedIn. I have to say, I learn a lot from reading posts from both you, Helen, and from Hannah on LinkedIn. We have a question from Rose. Hi, Hannah. Firstly, thank you for sharing. You mentioned the mental health support and the apps that you previously that you couldn't use, the mindful apps and these sorts of things. Have you found anything else useful instead?
Great question. Not online, not apps. I'm sure there probably is stuff now, but I stopped looking there. I started trying to find things that were weren't reliant on hearing, because I find it's a losing battle, and it puts me in a bad headspace. So instead, looking at things that don't require hearing nor perfect vision. So what I do is stuff like, initially it was just patting my cat and my dog. You know, that they don't need to see or hear animals. So they're there with you, and so there's that tactile, there's the feel, there's the smell. I can feel my cat purr. That was still really grounding, and it was something that was no different to before. And then things like cooking, and again, you've got the taste, you've got the sight, you can see when something's burning, you can see when something's ready, that type of thing. And then reading is really reading is the only way that I can escape from my current reality. You know, I can't listen to music. Watching a movie is good if there are captions, but again, it's a lot of mental fatigue. So what I do is I read a lot, and I use a Kindle. I swore I would never get a Kindle, but I've got a Kindle now. And the great thing about that is I can invert the colors. I've got a black background with my white text, and I make the writing really big, and it's really comfortable, and I can sit there and be in my own world.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hannah. There's another question here. Hello, Hannah. This is from Trudy. Thanks for your question, Trudy. Hello, Hannah. Thank you for sharing your story. You are learning sign language. Do you also know about social haptic communication?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Yes, we use social haptics with deafblind West Australians, and I actually usually get a communication guide to come with me when I do presentations and do haptics on me, on my back, who to give me a sense of the room, the mood. If I'm presenting, I can't hear the audience go or ah, or laugh, or any of those type of that feedback. I can't see people nodding. So they, through agreed haptics, will do those on my back, and it makes such a difference. And I do it also with my friends who are deafblind. And it's a fantastic form of communication, haptic communication.
Great, thank you. And Trudy's responded, she's so glad to hear about that. And members, do remember that last year in our webinar series, Dr. Rita Lattinen and Russ Palmer did a webinar around how they were using social haptic communication. For those of you that know such haptic communication, I'm sure will be very familiar with the names Rita Lattinen and Russ Palmer. So do have a look on our YouTube channel for their webinar about how they were using social haptic communication in the context of hobbies and interests and astro haptices, so Russ's interest in space. Rose has responded, thanking you for answering her question, Hannah, and saying that pet therapy is great. You mentioned about stroking the cat and things like that, and of course using the tactile modality. Naomi has put a comment. Thank you for sharing your experience on mental health management. Cooking and pet therapy is amazing. So again, thinking about using those other senses. Hannah, I'm conscious of time now. I wondered if I could ask a quick question. It was something I actually read of yours online, and sort of a lot of talk in the context of acquired deafblindness, acquired loss is the notion of loss, loss and grief. But you'd written that you didn't lose your hearing, but rather you willingly sacrificed it for the sake of your health. And that really jumped out to me. I thought that was a very powerful statement. I wondered if you could just say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So my hearing was pretty good, but the way that the brain tumors were growing were getting really into the brainstem and starting to affect the way that I was using my body, and I was going to lose the ability to walk quite quickly. So they said, we need to take those out, but it will leave you deaf. So the first time we did it in 2020 was a bit, I wasn't sure what it was going to be like. I naively thought, oh, I'll just lose half my hearing and I'll still be able to hear half, because you can't compute it. I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but if you've only ever known a full hearing world, you can't anticipate. So, and there wasn't much online at all about losing it so suddenly and knowingly. So after the first surgery, I realized, oh, geez, that was my good ear. My left ear is very weak. It was compensating. And I've lost the ability to locate sound now. I don't know where the sound is coming from. So I had a hearing aid on my left for the time between the two surgeries, which wasn't long. I probably only got my hearing aid about 4 months before we had to do that side. And then I had to return my hearing aid because there was no point in having it. And so going into that second surgery, that was really hard because the first ABI hadn't worked. So I knew that it would be complete silence when I woke up, but I had to weigh that up against, do you let it continue to grow and wreak havoc on other parts of your body to try and get a few more months, years of hearing? And I just couldn't do it. I thought, no, I need to preserve the rest of my body, and the price will be my ability to hear. And the team, the surgical team, were fantastic. They were really compassionate. They let me listen to music in the theatre, which was very unexpected, but deeply appreciated. But yeah, then I had that moment of panic when they put the mask on, and I had to take those breaths where I knew that this was it. And it's almost like a death in a way, because you don't really have much like that to compare it to. There's nothing you can do. You can't argue it. There's no shortcut. It's finite, and it's gone. And so when I woke up on the other side, there was that cold realization that it had happened and there was no going back.
Thanks, Hannah. It's a very powerful statement and a very powerful story that you've shared there. Before we bring it to a close, Hannah, you are in Perth, Western Australia, but you are coming to the UK and Europe soon. I wonder if you could say a little bit about your Hannah on
Yes.
tour. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm coming. Yes, so I'm going to be in the UK and in Spain in May and June. I've got my parents are English, so I have a British passport, and I'm over there quite a lot. And I've got a cousin getting married in Malaga, so I'm very excited to go over there for that. But then I'm coming back again and in that time, I'm doing some work, going up and visiting Peter in Birmingham. I'm doing a little bit of stuff at the University College London and also the University of Southampton. So I'm very excited. And then in October, I'm going to Denmark and Sweden, which I'm very excited for. Peter's introduced me to some great people in that part of the world. And then I'm going to be coming back and seeing Peter again for your big opening and spend a couple of weeks in the UK before coming back again. So really excited for all of that.
Brilliant. Well, we look forward to welcome you to this side of the world when we can talk to you at a more civilized hour for you than almost gone midnight now, Hannah. So I'll bring it to a close. Let me read out. We've had a couple more comments in the chat, Hannah, that I'd like to share with you and the rest of the group. So Trace van Nuenen from the Netherlands says, thank you, Hannah, for sharing your story with us. These webinars are so important, but most of all, I'm learning every time from the stories of people with lived experience. Your strength and courage will be a huge example for everyone in the field of deafblindness. Again, thank you. And hopefully we are going to meet you in Switzerland at the Deafblind International World Conference. So yes, hopefully we will get together in Switzerland. Srika Malan from Toronto, I echo the statements. I echo the sentiments from Trace. Thank you, Peter, Hannah, and the group for these kind of opportunities. Moa in Sweden, thank you, Hannah, for sharing your story. Look forward to meeting you again. Yes, thanks, Moa. So we're looking forward to having you over with us here in Europe. And Olagarki Olamailkan, apologies if I've said that incorrectly. Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate, I love you from John from Nigeria. John, thank you for joining us from Nigeria. It's great to have you here. So huge thanks, Hannah, for spending the time with us this afternoon for an excellent webinar. Really enjoying this series this year of our webinars, and extra thanks for staying up so late to do the webinar. Huge thanks to our partners Deafblind UK, who allow us access to their Zoom license so that we can hold these webinars. Do remember that it will be recorded and available on our YouTube channel. And thank you all for attending. Our next webinar will be taking place on Wednesday, the 21st of May, at 4:30 again, Central European time. And we'll be welcoming our speaker, Vikram Chowdhury from Germany. Vikram will be talking about his action research study that looked at connecting young people and adults with acquired deafblindness and the benefits of age diversity in peer matching. And this is very apt for me at the moment because, as many of you know, my professional background before I was an academic was social work. And last week we had World Social Work Day, and the theme of that was intergenerational solidarity. So this idea of intergenerational support between young people with acquired deafblindness and older people with acquired deafblindness is going to be very interesting indeed. So last comment I have to make, because I made a note of this, I have to challenge your husband that you can be a member of too many libraries. That is simply not possible. You can never, ever be a member of too many libraries. I'm with you on this. I'm with you on that, Hannah, that the more libraries, the better. So thank you so much for joining us for this afternoon's webinar, and enjoy the rest of your day, your afternoon, and Hannah, sleep well. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care now. Andy, thanks for doing the recording.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Hannah.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Roma.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meeting you. Yeah.
Thank you.